Ilyana Rasputin, aka Magic. First appearance, Giant Size X-Men #1 in May 1975. And that's interesting for reasons I'll get into in a moment. Hey guys, you know who it is, what's going on, when it's happening, where it's at, and why we're here today. How you doing? It is I, the sublimely magnificent Big Ugly himself, Omari Ellis, feogrande on YouTube, back with another episode of the Whatever We Want podcast. And as usual, I am joined by my co-host and running mate, one of my best friends in the world, he who bears watching Superjaz.
As nature intended. What's going on, everybody? Yes, it's your boy Superjaz, or you can call me Jazz, SJ, JT, whatever you want, what have you, and the like. And yes, as my co-host said, this is the Whatever We Want podcast, where I always say that we do just that. We talk about whatever we want. We do not lead this conversation. This conversation leads us, and we let these chips fall where they may.
Every Wednesday. So,
and it is me. Oh shit. Wait. Hey, for the last few episodes, you ain't said Big Ugly himself, Omari Ellis, feogrande on YouTube, sometimes referred to as Pete on this show. What the fuck? What the fuck? No. Because I'll be saying your intro with you.
Yeah. Oh, you mean trying to say the sometimes referred to as Pete on the show? Not gonna lie. Sometimes I forget. And sometimes I remember. So sometimes I'm referred to as Pete on this show, even by myself.
Anyway.
Yes. So, but that is funny.
Yeah, because I'm like, bro, you ain't said that shit for like 4 or 5 episodes. You mother. Anyway.
But yeah, I was like, I need a character for I, and I was like, oh, of course I know who I is. It's one of my fucking favorite characters, Ilyana, the younger sister of Colossus. And I was like, yeah, let me look up her first appearance. And then when I saw it, I was like, duh, of course that's technically her first appearance. Technically,
so a lot of X-Men characters debuted in that issue, apparently.
Well, Storm, Colossus, Nightcrawler, Wolverine became an X-Men, got moved into the X-Men thing. Before that, he had only really showed up in Hulk and maybe something else after, because people liked that character that Hulk had to fight. And they eventually moved him over to X-Men. But the reason I said, of course, that's where she first appeared is because with it being the first chapter for Storm, Colossus, and Nightcrawler, we get a little bit of their backstories in there. Some more than others. Like Nightcrawler, he's already being chased in Germany by people who hate him because he looks like a demon and they want to kill him in the name of Christ. And he gets saved by Charles. Storm is it. We get a little bit more than, oh God, we hate you in the moment. We see that Storm is a person who lives in Kenya and is worshipped as a goddess. And we literally see people giving her items to, please give us some rain, stuff like this, and she's fucking soaking it up. She's like, yes, I am the goddess Storm, because of course she is, and she is. She might as well be.
Who would you not, right?
She might as well fucking be.
Exactly.
And we see that, unlike Nightcrawler has a lot of restrictions on his powers. Early on, we see that Storm. She's definitely, this ain't her first rodeo when it comes to using her powers. She already kind of really knows what to do from a basic standpoint. Like, all the basics of her powers are done. She just optimizes from then. So she starts the journey late game. But Colossus, we go even further back to his past. So we find out when he discovered his powers, because he's still like pretty young compared to the other two, because I think the other two are in their 20s. And Colossus is just now 18 and just recently had his powers kick in when he saved his younger sister from a runaway tractor. And you see
That
him,
makes sense.
you see him save his younger sister. Yeah, you see him saving his younger sister from the runaway tractor. And yes, about a decade later, damn near, the sister gets brought into the story as an actual character.
They always do stuff like that in shows and comics and shit. It's just like y'all just needed to add some shit. Because when you said, well, my bad, finish what you were saying.
But no, it was one of those things where I'm like, of course, that's why I was like, of course that was her first appearance. She's in Colossus's backstory. I just thought about when she became a character that mattered.
Oh, you're talking about, I get it, first appearance as opposed to when she actually was like for real deal here.
Yeah.
You saying that was her first appearance, and then you didn't see her for like years, and then all of a sudden, okay.
Yeah, outside of the occasional villain being like, "Don't you have a younger sister at home?" You
might as well like not even thought about it, right?
Or Colossus being like, "I gotta go back to Russia real quick, help my sister out." But it wasn't until about I think it was about X-Men 160, Uncanny X-Men 160, so 1982, that there was a thing that pretty much led to the character we know now. It was an incident with this demon lord. I'm sorry guys, another X-Men history lesson. It was either that or talk about sports again. So you know what? This is what we're starting with.
We got other things we talk about. I tried to talk to you about the existential state of human existence, and you didn't want to do that.
we just did that before we started. And then we're like, oh shit, we should have clicked record. But
right. The last episode, I was like, "Hey, you ever thought about what it means to be alive?" I said this whole like one or two sentences, and you were like, "No." Right, well then.
Last episode.
Yeah, I thought it was like, well,
good. No.
I got nothing. No,
I don't know why, but the way you asked it, it just felt like stoner talk. It just felt no, it wasn't even so much that I was upset with the question. It just seemed like a stoner ass question, and I know you don't do drugs, so but rather than be like, "What the fuck did you just smoke?" I was just like,
"You were like, I don't know, man."
No. Yeah. Have you ever thought that maybe like any thought you had was already thought, or some shit that you said? It was fun. I know what you're talking about. It was some kind of existential, what's the meaning of life philosophy. But I was like,
I basically said, I said something along the lines of, have you ever thought that what is life? And I forget exactly what I said, but it was like, have you ever thought, what is life? And this might not be real, or something like that, and this could be a simulation in somebody else's head, or some shit like that.
Yeah, simulation is sort of like no, and also instead of "what are you smoking," I thought in the moment a no would be funnier.
Because it was just like you were like, "Hey, you said you had a prompt, Jazz. What were you thinking?" I said this thing, and you were just like,
"Oh, that wasn't the prompt to start. The prompt to start was
no, it wasn't what started. You started, and you were like, "Hey, Jazz, you had something you want to talk about."
Gotcha.
Like,
by the way, for all the people who did or didn't comment last week, yes, the Renegades won their game despite getting into the playoffs at 6-4. They upset the Roughnecks and are going to the XFL championship game.
That's our XFL update.
There you go. So there's the egg on my face, like, wow, my 7-3 team didn't get in, but the 4-6 team did. Well, the 4-6 team is going to the championship game. So there you go. Sports. Any given Sunday.
There you go, sports. The fuck.
But we could have just as easily beat a team and been in there facing them. That's all I'm saying. What are we talking about?
We were talking about
X-Men real quick. Yes, Colossus' sister. She was just his little sister, just meant there to be a plot device for kidnappings, and just so he could say, "I got steaks at home." You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about the cows on the farm, but or
the fences that keep them in.
Oh, yuck. Gotcha. There, I see what you did. I see what you did. But
Anyway.
there was a time where they went to an island for, let's just say, for reasons, because it's not like I'm a goddamn encyclopedia. But they went to an island, a mysterious island that popped up. I think for lack of a better reasoning, I'm going to say Cerebro had something to do with it. That, or if it's the island I'm thinking of, that might have been where Scott washed up after a shipwreck and they eventually went to find him. Because he had left the X-Men shortly after Jean had died. Because he's like, fuck this shit, I'm out. And he was hanging with a chick, Lee Forrester, I believe her name was. She was a fling of Scots in between Jean and Madeline Pryor. And
that sounds like a celebrity, like a C-list celebrity for some reason. That I know I haven't. It sounds like I've heard that name, like somebody Lee Forrester who like did some episodes of some show I forgot.
Gotcha. I could also just have the name wrong and could be thinking of a C-list celebrity. I
feel like it's not you, it's me.
Leave that. I will leave that possible. I'm just saying that's how unconfident I am in the name. Is I'm gonna leave that possibility on the table. If I'm
okay.
right,
Anyway, though,
come at me. If I'm right, though, she also dated Magneto at a point. That's right. She's dated both Scott and Magneto. I don't.
I get around.
Dude. X-Men characters. There's a lot of people where you're like, this couple's been a couple forever. But did you know that they also were couples with this people forever so briefly, and then went back to the people you're used to them being with? Yep, it's happened. Kitty's been known. It's for the majority of the two characters' existence, it's been Colossus and Kitty together, but Colossus has been with Domino, Kitty's been with Iceman. Colossus is... I don't think he was with Deathbird. I think I said that last time when we talked about Gabriel too. But bottom line... God damn, I keep tangenting. Anyway...
But I'm not an encyclopedia, he just said.
Yes, I can't tell you the fucking chapters and the panel numbers.
Okay, okay, yeah, that'd be a bit much.
I gotta look up the years for half of these debut chapters. I know the people's real names, but
you remember this person with this person with this person with this person with that person.
Yes, because you know it happened. Iceman fucked Mystique. She also was with Forge, who also had a time when he was with Storm.
You know more than my ass. Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, knowing more than you does not make me an expert. It just makes me where I know enough to hold a few conversations on a podcast for content. Because I gotta put this useless knowledge to use somehow.
I mean, there is no fourth wall with podcasts because we talk to the audience, but if there was one... Oh, shit.
But no, so for reasons, X-Men end up on an island in the middle of nowhere that popped up because it was mysteries. For whatever reason, they had Colossus's younger sister with them. I think they had just saved her from a damsel in distress moment, and on the way home, here we are on this island. Eventually, while they're doing shit on the island, little girl, like 7-year-old Ilyana, sees a circle on the ground, made of light, steps on it, disappears. And people are like, what the fuck? Eventually, other people step on it, and they get a bit more of an idea of what the fuck happened. And without trying to go, because I don't remember in detail enough to go in story order, I'll just summarize everything that happened. Bottom line is, dude named Belasco, Demon Lord, some random Demon Lord, Belasco.
That's the name right there.
Yeah, Belasco. He kidnapped Ilyana and brought her to his demon realm called Limbo. That's easy enough to remember. Limbo. And he was the evil sorcerer ruler of Limbo. And he's like, I need an apprentice. And I'm choosing you, little girl. Now, time in Limbo moves differently than normal time. Does that mean it moves faster or slower? It moves differently than normal time. You could be in there forever and only a second passed. You could use it to come back to the present time and you in the past. So it's one of those things where, to borrow a term from something I saw recently, time is both instant and infinite. So regardless of how long you spend there, that does not determine or roughly translate anywhere evenly to time passing in the real world. And the past and present are all happening somehow simultaneous. Magic shit, if you will. Bottom line is, by the time the X-Men who all get trapped in this place eventually start seeing shit, it seems like 7 years has passed. Wolverine comes across his own fucking skeleton because apparently he challenges somebody and gets destroyed or some shit. Everybody in Nightcrawler gets turned into more of a demon slave, while also we got normal Nightcrawler trying to save little kid Ilyana. Weird shit's going on. Anyway, by the time everybody puts, okay, timeline should be like this, we need to do this, let's get out of here, let's save Colossus' sister. They're going through the portal to leave, but Lasco's like, fuck that shit, I want my apprentice. Pulls Ilyana back. They all come out, they're like, oh shit, reach back in. Grab Ilyana's arm, pull her out, and now she's 14. And she spent 7 years learning magic under Belasco, trying to fight her way back to this portal so she could escape with the X-Men. And they're like, well, I guess Ilyana's 14 now. Well, she can't come with us on X-Men missions. Also, is she a mutant? Yeah, it turns out those little teleporting circles that lead you to Limbo, that's her mutant power.
Teleportation.
Pretty much access to the teleportation via access to Limbo. So she makes a circle on the ground, makes a magic circle. People who step into it go to Limbo. From Limbo, they can come back out into the real world. But because time moves differently, and I don't think they ever break it down scientifically because they need to leave it vague because of the way they use this power. Right. They probably did ruin it at some point, like they ruin a lot of things by trying to get too scientific with the powers. She can pretty much come back out at any time and anywhere. So she can move through space and time by teleporting, but she has to go to Limbo in between her destinations.
That's a dope power, but it kind of sucks that you have to hit a central hub first.
Yeah, and it's better. Well, it helps that she eventually becomes like the ruler of Limbo because she has to kill Belasco and gets a soul sword that you'll occasionally see her with. It's a fucking sorceress armor and shit. She's like Demon Lord or Demon Lady Magic Ilyana Rasputin, because she also, and her personality also changed when she came back. But because they didn't want to bring her with them on missions, they decided to take her and Kitty and put them with the new mutants who had been established by that time and were more her and Kitty's age, which is 14, 15-ish at the time. They're like, these guys are more your age. Kitty, we get that we had you been doing missions with the adults for 2 years, but considering your ass has been to the edge of space and we thought we'd be abandoned there to die on an alien xenomorph planet, maybe you should hang with the rest of the kids. Because that was some serious shit. Storm got turned into a fucking space whale. It's all weird.
A space whale, WHALE.
Yes,
I just want to make sure I heard that right.
I'm calling it a space whale because I don't remember the name of the thing. It's like Ashanti or some shit, but it pretty much looks like a giant fucking space whale.
I just want to make sure I heard that.
And her consciousness, like she should have died in the vacuum of space, but somehow her consciousness became one of these things when it tried to save her body and her life and healed her. I don't remember, buddy. It was weird. It was the 80s.
The way you said that.
That also, however, that whole incident, Carol Danvers was with them. You might know her from being
Captain Marvel,
now, yes. Then she was Miss Marvel.
Miss Marvel,
But
and
yes,
Man's Dad.
the very same. Carol Danvers. She gets experimented on even further than she already had, and by I want to say by the Brood. Yeah, the Brood experiment on her, but she had already had her genealogical structure mixed up by the Kree and whatever her origin story
Wait,
is.
Edge, Christian, and Gang, real? They
Exactly.
experimented?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
Did they spit blood from a chalice?
No,
During the operation?
it was the aforementioned alien xenomorphs. That are pretty
Did he hit it
much
with the impaler?
that are pretty much always associated with the X-Men, and yeah, but she came back and now she had the power of a white hole, which I guess is the opposite of a black hole. Which, long story
Yeah,
short,
energy
she's
instead
like,
of exit.
I suppose she was super duper magnificent power as opposed to just really super powerful as she was before. She took all the powers and just like, now I can also shoot energy laser beams and survive the vacuum of space. And my head looks like a fucking star if I wanted to. Just look up binary X-Men, although nowadays that might give you something else.
Yeah, that is true. What do you think? Speaking of time, what do you think about the concept of time is like a construct and everything is happening right now or whatever that shit is? You know, you heard it before, right?
Yeah. And I feel kind of like the existential crisis thing
I
that
knew you were going.
that is some shit that you
Crisis
don't
wasn't
have to
the
be
right word.
you don't have to be high or drunk to think like this, but it's one of those things where it's like one's mind goes there when it's so disconnected from whatever's going on around it for whatever reason. Not that you needed outside aid to do it. Maybe you just don't want to think about, the fact that the world's falling apart around us and you just want to think about something else, anything else, and your mind drifts off and the things you start to think about is like, damn, what if time was a fucking construct? We didn't really, it wasn't actually a thing. We just gave time a number. Who's to say seconds actually exist? Minutes. Yeah, it's subjective. In all honesty, it could be subjective. We say it's objective. Everyone agrees to the objective concept of what time is, but it could all be happening at the same time. Also, if you think about the dimensions, if we take the theoretical fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth dimensions into the fray, we could be in the parallel dimensions doing the same thing. Or, if I ate spaghetti instead of fish, maybe my cousin would still be alive right now. What? How does that connect? That's what I'm saying. It's all connected. It's all in a vortex. Time is standing still while constantly moving. I am standing still in the speck as the ocean of life and space, in life as we know it. Is there more life out there in space? There has to be. Space is infinite. But why hasn't that life found us? Are we that insignificant? Had the intellectual lives that have come across our planet saw how primitive we were and they said they can't do anything? They're not ready to meet us yet, and moved on? Or maybe we're too late. Maybe we're the last remaining life in space, and that's why no one's responded. Or maybe no one's responded to our attempts to shoot stuff out of space because they are hiding, and they should be. And we're stupid, broadcasting our location. Eventually, those who don't want to find us will receive that. And oh no, now we're dead. And no one's gonna warn us, because to warn us is to go ahead and put their location out there. And who knows, they may be closer to the enemy. Oh shit. Well, then what should we do? What is life on the planet? I don't know. Hey, what color do you like? I'm a fan of red. You're the fucking devil. But don't you like blue? That's why you're the devil, because I like blue. Well, I knew a guy who liked blue once. Yeah. Yeah, and he said a lot of things I didn't agree with. Well, my God says this. What do you call your God? I call my God God. Well, you need to die, motherfucker. You the devil. I call my God something else. And now you're just fighting. And while we're fighting, we just have the enemy in space. They could be looking, observing all of this, and laughing at the primitives on their screens. They're fighting over what to call God. Yeah, right? Everyone knows it's foofles. Oh, foofles. You worship foofles? It's more about gargles. You did not say gargles in my presence, heretic. And then they start fighting, only to realize they're on the camera for another person. And then again, it just shows no matter how big you think you are merely small. Your concept of time doesn't matter because it is merely sitting still as a speck on the table of the room, in the house of the city, of the country, of the world that is the universe. So that sounds like stoner talk to me because it's just so like crazy. You know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean.
I'll pause and let that breathe for a second.
You know what I mean.
You don't even know what the fuck you My man said I was gonna throw a whole bunch of words together. What the fuck? I call God God where you need to die. It's foofles. Wait, foofles, it should have been gargles. Motherfucker, what?
Well, yeah, that's what the aliens are saying to each other that are looking at us. They're like, everyone knows it's foofles. What? But the bottom line was they argue about the same shit. That's all I'm saying, because it's always the same. It's all the same, only the names that change. Every day seems like we're wasting away.
Okay, all right. I know you were quoting the song, but the way you got into it with the hand movements again. I was like, oh, you better start again. That's why I waited. I was like, oh, the hand movements.
I use hand motions. I talk with my hands often.
Yeah, but the way you did it just now, as of recently, you were like, yeah, it's all the same. And you just did it. I was like, okay, I'm gonna wait because he about to go down a whole another 5 minutes of. So, should we move topics?
Oh yeah. Well, the bottom line is, so she hangs with the New Mutants for a minute, and then turns out, because now I'm just gonna keep talking about yada. There's this big storyline that came up to fruition in the mid '80s, like this whole Belasco initial Ilyana saga, which it was like, and I'm just, but. It was another thing that doesn't get talked about. And all the good storylines of X-Men in the 80s, you know, your Phoenix sagas, your Days of Future Past, your et ceteras, you know, things that have gone on to get movies. There's things like X Inferno or Just Inferno, where it's another collaborative storyline of all things X coming to a climax in one big, you know, multi-part across 3 different comic books thing. Yeah, just like, holy shit, these storylines are all coming here. And then you realize it's easy to do that in a way that works because it's more or less all being written by the same motherfucker, Chris Claremont. Because the first run of New Mutants was Chris Claremont while he was doing X-Men. In the 80s. Like, X Factor was somebody else.
It makes me kind of wonder where somebody could come up with ideas like that. And I don't mean just comics. I mean just ideas in general. From comics to, and I think everybody, especially if you're creative, you have it in you. You just gotta know how to tap into it and get better at it. But when you think of like X-Men or Superman, or even when you think of shit like fucking I just watched this movie that nobody fucking saw. It wasn't a bad movie, but this movie, A Good Person, with Florence Pugh, who played I I forget Black Widow's sister's name, but she played Black Widow's sister in the movie. It was her and Morgan Freeman. Or if you think of even a movie
Yelena.
like Yelena, yeah. Or if you think of a movie like Pulp Fiction, or it's like, where do these ideas come from? Especially when people write these full feature length plays and movies and shit. Like, where does this shit come from, man?
This shit. This shit right here. The fucking One Piece. Easily over 1,000 named characters in this series, and no, I can't name all of them off the top of my head.
I would hope that'd be crazy.
That said, now it's easy to be like, yeah, I have a lot of named characters in the series, but when you think about how long the series is, and when I tell you that more than half, if not like 60 or 70% of those characters have some kind of thought put into their backstory and stuff. Damn near all of them look different and have character design that is uniquely them. That's what I mean when I say named character. Spartacus. And the fact that it's one doing all of this. That's like, dude. And then some of them literally thought of the week he's doing the chapter that they debuted in. Like, there were 11 characters, or I'll say 9 characters that got introduced to the story at one point, without spoiling who they are, but they all got introduced at the same time. And if you're watching One Piece, you get to that now, you'll be like, oh, this is what he was talking about. But they were all thought of and introduced the week that chapter happened, because despite everything else that happens in that arc, which it still would have been a ridiculous arc, he thought it needed something else to get it that little bit more spice. And so, what if I had 9 guys that meet whatever criteria, insert spoiler criteria here? What if all of them were here too? What am I gonna do with these characters? I'll figure it out. Some of these characters end up being really important to the story, and to think that they were a last second addition is crazy.
And it's like, I'm just like even if you look at something like The Simpsons, been going on for what, 30 plus years now, and it's just like, okay, they definitely are not as good as they were for the first like 8-9 seasons. Because those are like the golden years with seasons, like I want to say 3 through 8. That was when the Simpsons was like magic. Okay. But to come up with ideas, no matter how shitty, to be able to have fucking, let's say for a seasons last, what, 2 to 3 months. So for 2 to 3 months, for fucking like once a week, maybe sometimes more, to have a full narrative go on for about 25 minutes for 30 plus years, even if it's bullshit, but it made sense. How do you do that? Where is this coming from? With shit like South Park been going on forever, Family Guy been going on forever. What?
Let's talk about the longest rating weekly episodic television show. In their own words.
We tried to stay away from it. No.
In their own words, Raw.
Right.
Like, and that has a lot of shitty moments, but they still do randomly pull out like good new shit. And
every now and then you get some good storyline.
And the thing that I like about long form narratives in general, like your One Piece, like your wrestling, like your Dragon Ball and other stuff, where you get to that point to where, oh shit, some stuff might be going downhill, or you have an arc or a moment where you're like, that wasn't nothing. All it takes is some bit down the line, and it happens every time, for something that you like to be going on, and then they work the shitty thing into what is good, and you don't fully forgive the shitty thing for happening, but you appreciate it happening nonetheless because it enhanced what came later.
Sometimes, yeah.
Like, there are parts of One Piece that people don't necessarily like, or that aren't there are parts that are universally liked in the fan base, and then there are parts that are disputed by a lot, and especially when they came out and were the most recent thing, were not looked well upon. However, as the story goes on and people or elements from that stuff come back and get put into a whole different new perspective, you're like, damn. And they did mention this back then. It was a throwaway line. Now, granted, the writer could have easily just been like, let me take this throwaway line and make something out of it. I guarantee you, Oda has done that. he has ass pulled like, this is a thing from an earlier chapter. Where could I go with this? They said, what? Well, that's gonna matter now. Yes, but even that is a skill in and of itself.
Hell to the yes.
To be able to go and be like, what can I do to make this tie into everything in a way that makes enough sense?
Yeah, I agree.
Because plot holes are always going to exist if you look hard enough, and especially in a series that's not finished.
What was I gonna say? But like I started writing a play a few months ago, actually. Probably I want to say maybe started writing in January. And it is true what they say when you start writing that some of that stuff just flows out of you, just flowing. Then I got to one point and I'm like, where do I go from here? And I know eventually I will unlock it, but it's like I'm at this point where it's like, one, how do you think up a whole full length story where if it's a play where this shit can last at least 90 minutes, if not more? And then if I was to be a writer, I got to get my mind around, okay, I wrote this one, but then you got people who write 10, 20, 30, 50 plays in their life. And it's like, you wrote 90 to 2 hour plus plays and movies in your life? Where did that come from? Because my thing is, like I say, even if the shit is shitty, to even think up like a narrative that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, it might have been bad, but you didn't say, okay, he got in the car, drove to Arizona, and then all of a sudden, now we're over here looking at a talking dog. It's like, no, it made sense. It just might have been stupid. You know?
Yeah. There's a guy, Jonathan Colton. He's an internet musician, and he's or I'm not even gonna say internet. He's a comedic musician, and he had a lot of shit that he did. He was around in the early days of the internet doing famous stuff. He also has had songs appear in the mainstream, or even if it's in a niche corner, but it's been something that people like that don't necessarily follow the internet would do. I know I've mentioned him to you in the past, even if you don't remember. But you remember the show Code Monkeys?
Oh yeah.
You remember the theme song? Code Monkey like
Code
Fritos.
Monkey like freedom. And then I didn't know
like
words.
Tab and Mountain Dew. Code Monkey, very simple man. Big warm fuzzy secret heart. Code Monkey like you. That's him. That's a song of his, Code Monkey, just to get an idea. Also, for people who are fans of the game Portal, the song still I know you haven't played it, but the song Still Alive, even though it's sung by a female, written by him.
The cake is alive.
Other shit, huh?
The cake is alive.
It's that game, but yes.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying he did it, but I mean, yeah, that's the game, right? I got you.
It's that game. So he's done a lot of stuff, but I bring him up to go off of your point. Why I bring him up is he has a big part of his catalog because there was a year where he decided every week he was going to release a song.
Yeah,
like
crazy.
A fully produced song and everything. He was a thing a week is what he called it. Now, are all the songs bangers? No. Are a decent amount of them? Yeah. But I still respect the fact that this dude came out with 52 songs. You know, he challenged himself to produce a thing a week for an entire year. And
that's work.
As someone who has had to do something similar, but way easier, calm down, way easier, but similar, committing to a year of anything for is crazy. And especially if you're trying to do it and after like a month or two you're like, why did I say I'd do this for a whole fucking year? Hell,
If you say,
and to go with what you were saying, like I had to stream every day for a year. Not because anyone told me to, but I gave myself the self-imposed challenge of every day in 2021 streaming. I mentioned it in
Day.
Yeah, Day 2021 was what I called it. Shout out to St. Louis, Cards, you're not doing that well this season from what I hear, but you could turn it around. There's 162 games. The bottom line is I got to a point to where it's like, hey, I got a lot of real life stuff going on. I'm lucky enough, knowing me and knowing myself, I didn't say I'm streaming for an hour at 7 p.m. every single day this year, and this is what's gonna happen. I said I'm going live every day in some kind of capacity, and I did. Even if I had to just
I think that's commendable in and of itself.
I had to go outside a bar and go on my phone and live stream for like 5-10 minutes. Yo, I'm in St. Louis. It's cold as shit and I ain't been used to being there for a minute. Anyway, I got some friends inside I ain't seen in a long time. But
was that when we were all hanging out?
Yeah. Oh, that happened. I went out. I stepped out the bar to stream for like 5 minutes of just standing on the road. Yeah, I'm streaming. I highly doubt anybody's tuning in because a lot of those streams, no viewers. But that's not the point. The fact of the matter is, I did it, and it takes a lot of work for something as easy as go live and say some shit or play some games for other people's entertainment. Okay. That's not the same as writing a whole ass song and playing the majority of the instruments on said songs, if not all, for an entire year. Obviously, those are two different tiers of feats. But if this was hard for me, as easy as it is, and as navical as it is, then this is also ridiculous and commendable.
Like you said, to commit to anything for a year, no matter what the level of difficulty, after a while, because like you said, after a while, it gets to that point of why am I doing this? That discipline really comes into play, and that's what it is. Because you could say I'm going to wake up every day and do 5 push-ups. 5 push-ups ain't shit for pretty much anybody, especially after you hit a certain age. But after a few days of doing these 5 push-ups, you get to the point you be like, bro, I want to do these fucking 5 push-ups. It's just that's just the human like brain, the way we are wired. After a while, we be like, I don't want to do that shit, man. So to stick with some shit for a year, if you say every day I'm gonna get up and write the alphabet, after a while you be like, I don't fucking do this shit. So yeah, it's like, and that level of difficulty is not hard.
And all you need to do, and I learned this the hard way, is break the habit like by a day or two, and you realize how quickly you now obviously people with stronger mental fortitudes than myself, blah 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 blah. Shut the fuck up! I ain't talking to you. But the average person, you miss that one day or that thing that throws just enough of a wrench in that routine, and you see your motivation to keep doing it go away. It's like, well, I missed it 2 days ago. I can take another day off. And then you blink, and it's been 2 weeks, and you're like, damn, I need to work out.
The habit goes from it being a habit of you doing it to a habit of you not doing it. So now you condition yourself to not do it more so than to do it, and then it becomes a habit in a different direction. But yeah, no, it's just like you said, it is level of difficulty for anything to commit to a year, whether it be once a day or once a week. It just becomes and like I said, because after a while, the human like our brain is geared towards. I don't want to do that. It could be the funnest thing in the fucking world for you, but you don't. We wouldn't want to do that shit. Like fucking once a week. I gotta go and I love acting through the fucking death, but once a week I gotta go and perform in another show. It's just because that's the way the brain is wired. That after a while you just be like, I don't want to do that shit, and that's when you gotta check yourself and say, "Oh, shut this dumb ass up." But that's how it goes. It's just funny. So like I say, for you to do that for 365 days is crazy. And then, dude, you talking about did that shit, especially like you said, a whole fucking like fully produced song. That's a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, no,
And
that was ridiculous.
And the biggest thing too is that getting to a point where
and they were all different songs too.
Yeah, I figured that much. Like different styles and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But getting yourself to a point where if the stuff is not up to if it's not up to snuff of how you would want it to be, you can't beat yourself up.
Yeah,
because that's the big thing too. Because obviously, if you do something like that, and you would know because what you're talking about, if you do something like that, you would want everything to be perfect, beautiful, 100% gorgeous, lovely, and you got to be like, nah, man. Sometimes just the act of doing is good enough for doing it now, and then we'll do gorgeous, beautiful, lovely next time. So, discipline. Oh man, that's speaking of working out and discipline, and yeah, 22-year-old, 23-year-old Jazz, 4-year-old Jazz, he was disciplined as far as working out. 10 years later, not so much.
Yeah, I had gotten to a point to where there was 2 weeks where 3 times a week, I got it up to 2 weeks before I had to stop, but I was doing 90 minutes on an elliptical 3 times a week to try and build up. Cause I'm trying to get to the average level of cardiovascular fitness because I've always had shitty cardio, and
how many
I was
weeks
trying
did
to
you
work.
say you did?
By the time I got to 90, I don't know how many weeks it took. It took me a while to get up to 90 minutes because I was adding time like in 6-minute increments after an hour or something like that. When then there were times where I needed to go another week because 90 minutes is an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And that is a long time to commit to just being on a goddamn elliptical, and I would feel like shit for like the rest of the day.
The elliptical is a harder workout than I thought too. Like side note, because when I was working out heavy, I used to always do the treadmill, and then sometimes I would do the exercise bike. Those are my two. I remember some time ago I did the elliptical. I was like, this shit. Because you're doing the pulling and I was like, God damn. So yeah, I feel you.
Yeah. And like I said, I was trying to work my way up to a real workout, but I finally reached that, average cardio level of 90 minutes. And then I started I may or may not have some issues with knee pain. Everybody does to some extent. It's part of growing up. But my knee was hurting a lot more than usual, and nothing had really changed except me going 90 minutes 3 times a week on the goddamn elliptical. And I need to take a break for my own sake because my hip was also starting to hurt. There's a lot of things, but yeah, I tried to take a day off, and I haven't really done it in like a month, and I need to do it because luckily I haven't put all my fucking weight back on. I've been maintaining and losing maybe a pound a week, but that's so much slower.
Did you notice you lost weight?
Yeah. There's a point, and I think I mentioned it on previous episodes, if the topic of my 600-pound life ever came up, where I'm like, I understand you guys have a lot of sob stories of your childhoods, and eventually that led to an eating pattern to be 600, but y'all always lose me when you say you wake up one day and you're 600 pounds, and that's you had milestones before that. I know it because even I can be like, oh, I've hit 230 and my thighs are starting to rub together, and that makes me uncomfortable. Maybe I should lose weight. Like 600, there's 3, there's 4, there's 5. If you want to count the 50s, you can count those too, because 50 pounds is a lot. It's hard for me to eat a pound and a quarter steak, let alone have 50 of them carrying around inside me at once.
Yeah.
But everyone to each their own. You have your reasons for getting there. It's just, at some point, if you go, yeah, I really didn't care until I hit 600, okay, that's fine. At least you're being honest.
That is different phrasing. Yeah, that is different phrasing.
At least you're being honest. Yeah, if you're obese and you don't have a problem with it, you're just trying to live your life. Live your life. If you are wondering why you have a lot of health issues and you're super duper obese, maybe lose the weight. And you probably feel better. That's all I'm saying. But if you are fine being 600 pounds, like, my 600 pound life is awesome, enjoy yourself. The outside world is terrible. Life is not sunshine and rainbows, it's urine and feces, as the old adage says. But if you find a way to enjoy it despite everything else, whether that be friends, family, food, video games, as long as you ain't hurting nobody else, enjoy yourself. There's far too much negativity in the world for you to focus on that. Just focus to add to it. Enjoy your own life. But don't complain to me about it backfiring.
Okay, well, going down that road, this is something that I remember learning when I was in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say middle school, not high school. You're talking about there's a lot of negativity in the world, and I do not disagree, obviously. But I was gonna say something I thought about, and I said this to some of my coworkers here, and they're just making conversation. But I forget who the philosophers were, but there was one philosopher that said that people are inherently good, and then we learn to be evil. And there's another one who said that people are inherently evil, and then we learn to be good. Do you have like a weigh in? Like, what do you think? Do you think that we're inherently evil or we're inherently good? Like, we're born evil natured and we learn good throughout like life and our surroundings and shit, or we're born good natured and we learn evil, or evil natured and we learn good, or are we born neutral and then we learn either one?
If I were to pick one of those three, it would be the neutral start.
I would think neutral.
Because I think of a lot of things. Because you can think, it also depends on how animalistic you think the human race actually is. Like, do you think that human race is an animal in and of its own right? We just happen to have features that make us what we are. We are technically, like, scientifically animals. Yeah. Well,
but animalistic and being an animal is different, right?
Well, that, and to a large amount of the world, we are not animals at all. And it's...
Oh, you talking about the way people...
And it's heresy to even say. So, I'm not trying to say that. That's why I say it depends on how much of an animal you think we are.
We're mammals. We give live birth and produce milk. And yeah, that's mammals.
Yeah, I'm of the humans are a type of animal vibe as well, because I don't think that changes much. We still are humans and better than the other animals in our own rights, and worse than other animals and others. Like, I'm never beating a tiger in a fist fight. The bottom line is,
Right. I mean, fact, but okay.
because I was on this whole human master race shit. But no, bottom line is, even in nature with animals, sometimes you will see a fucking dog walk up to like a kitten and treat it like it's one of its puppies, just randomly. And you're like, that's not the normal nature of a dog or a wolf. Normally fight or eat the shit out of that cat. But this one decided to be nice to it. Just by nature. Did you see most dogs walk up and dead ass cat? Or, you know, just like in real life, there are some kids who just, like my friend's daughter that I saw at the wedding, she's hilarious. Just the most social, happy kid. Just ask everybody, hey, how you doing? And those kids are always awesome. And then sometimes you have kids that are just a little shit. And they just walk around, pranks, I'm a little evil bastard. And you're like, what the fuck? And the parents, and both kids, here's the thing, and here's the fun fact, sometimes both kids could be raised the exact same way by the different parents and just turn out different.
Have amazing parents, yeah.
However, overall, when I look at some of the more negative things about society, like racism, I have always been on the sense that racism is learned, not just not just from your parents, but also from your life experiences that add on to whatever you have been told. I didn't even realize I had the luxury of my mother being on the lighter side of things. I say luxury, but I don't mean luxury as in, oh, everyone should be jealous of me. I just mean, as a kid, when it comes to learning how to deal with other races, if I'm a kid and I haven't been taught that there is a such thing as other races, which I had not really been taught that, I was just like, yeah, some people are darker, some people are lighter. We're all people, whatever. My mom's lighter. My mom's on the lighter side, and she was at one point really light. And I'm like, okay, whatever. My mom looks light, so I guess that's it. You know what I mean? That's what it is. And it wasn't until I was about 4 or 5, and I was at this elderly lady's house, this elderly black lady's house, and me and this other kid who was about my age, and one of my earliest memories of a friend. We're coloring in a coloring book, and it gets to a point where there's a group of people sitting around, and I wasn't the brightest knife in the drawer, but I was intuitive enough to pick up information and store it. I was good at learning, and I was at least smart enough to know, or could read enough to know, the word flesh on the flesh-colored crayon. Flesh means skin. This stuff around people's eyes, nose, and mouth is
I feel like
skin.
I know where you're going.
So, I colored the people's skin the flesh color. Now, there was a thing a few years ago, and throughout my life, I've heard people talk about how racist it is to have the flesh color crayon be the color of what we call white people, or people of, European descent. But, again, I didn't go, ooh, I'm gonna make these people white people. I went, I'm gonna be smart and colored the flesh colored. Because my mother was not that many shades at that time darker than the flesh color crayon. At least not noticeably enough to my 4-year-old eyes.
Right, you're a little darker than your mom, and you're not that dark, right?
Yeah, and the only reason I look as dark as I do, I'm like maybe a shade lighter on the face, and than what you see. But I'm also outside a lot. I've been a perpetual pedestrian the majority of my life, so some tanning is bound to happen.
Basically, I'm probably like a shade or two darker than your mom, and I'm light. So,
or at the very, yeah. Or at least there was a time where she was a shade or two lighter than you. Y'all about the same shade now.
But there you go.
But the bottom line is, at the time, I'm like, okay, flesh color. I got in trouble. How dare you, you race traitor of a kid, you? Gotta color them like white people. That's wrong. White people are evil. Did you know all the stuff they did to black people? That's when I first learned that about the quote-unquote evil of the white man and all the stuff that they did. And I'm not going to say quote-unquote evil because that makes it sound like they never did anything wrong. Obviously, there are dark parts to American history, but not every single individual acted that way, that looked that way, acted that way, or still acts that way. In fact, I have the luxury of having a lot of friends that are flesh color crayon complexion to this day, and prove the concept that no, the flesh color crayon people are not evil. However, the other friend who was around my age, he used the brown marker on all the skin. So clearly he had enough sense to color the people like they should, he had enough self pride in his race to do that. Now, what he could have done, because he was a year younger than me, and like I said, I was like 4 or 5, what he could have done was go, hey, that's the skin color. This crayon, because I can't necessarily read the word that says flesh, matches my skin tone. I'm gonna color the skin that. Also, his mom was about the color of my shirt and your shirt. So we colored based on what we thought, based on the world and our life experiences. I'm used to seeing people colored the color of skin. He was used to seeing people who were more darker shades. We both just colored based on what we knew and took our evaluation of that on that the people told us and formed our initial ideas of race. I'm like, oh, there's another race called white people and they are out to get me. Okay, I was unaware of this. And, but once that veil of, guess what, you're different and people are going to hate you for it, has been lifted, it can never be put back on entirely. No matter how tolerant and how clearly that isn't the case with people because luckily I have had the fortune of getting to know a lot of people throughout my life on good terms, regardless. Like, I have had generally good interactions with people throughout my life. But not everybody is as fortunate as me. Some people can go, hey, these people are different and they're out to get you. And their first encounter with one of those people, said person's out to get them. And that's all they needed to go, you know what? You're right. They all fucking hate us. And if you're gonna hate me, I'm gonna hate you too. And then you just let that foster. Don't let the next person you meet also be a bad experience, because that further reinforces it. And then you reach the point to where it don't matter if you do meet somebody different, you know what you were taught. You're already stuck in your ways. And it works with the other races too, because there could be white people that are like, haha, I got friends that are, darker, but whatever, they're people. And then they're like, you better stay away from them. They're over there. They ain't nothing but some lazy people trying to steal your good, hard-earned white privilege. And
the voice, though.
Well,
I'm just laughing.
Yeah, it's like, okay. And then they're like, really? And then they come across somebody whose parents told them that the whitey's out to get them, but the kids like try to say hi, but they done met some bad whiteys, and they're like, get the fuck away from me, you cracker! And like, cracker? I'm no cracker! And it's like, I don't even know what that means. You mean like a saltine? And next thing you know, now we know slurs, and they come back. Next thing, he call you a cracker again? I tell you what to call him. And now kids getting suspended from school, and they're like, they got me suspended from school and set back my education just because I said a word. He was allowed to call me a cracker, though. That's why I hate all them damn. That's right. I said it. I'll get suspended every time. It already ruined my life. that's what I'm saying. This
It's
is some
so funny.
slippery
Zoom
slope.
like Zoom muted a decent amount of the end of that rant. But anyway,
But the bottom line is,
for me, I know we're recording.
those are hyperbolous examples. Hyperbolous slippery result examples. No, I'm not talking about the time chamber. They are hyperbolous examples of slippery slopes, but you get my point. And it's not just black and white. That's just the easiest thing to do because we're in America, and that's the topic over here. But it's always been my policy to treat the person on a person-to-person basis first.
I very much agree with you that a lot of that shit is taught. Racism is taught. Homophobia is taught. Sexism is taught. A lot of that shit is taught. Now, is there merit or truth to some of what may be around that? Maybe.
And again, I do want to say I'm not ignorant, people. I'm not completely living in a sheltered box. I do understand American history happened. I've been pulled over on the streets for walking with a jacket on in the summertime in Florida and had 3 other cops pull up trying to make sure that I don't fucking act up when all I did was walk from my friend's house to my house. I've had that happen, but am I going to hate a whole fucking race for it? No. I'm going to hate those specific people. I don't like them, but I also am never going to see them again, hopefully.
Years ago, I was walking home. Granted, I grew up in the hood, but years ago, I was walking home. And I caught the bus, and I'm walking through this vacant lot down the street. And this cop, and I grew up on a one-way street. Cop went the other way because I had a hoodie on, and he thought that like they stopped me right in front of my house. And I had to tell my mom this story years later, not because I didn't want to tell her, I just didn't think about it or whatever. But it was just like, what the fuck? Because at the time, I think I want to say I was 18.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say about probably 18. I got my license late. I got my fucking license at 20. Which is like, looking back, I'm like, God damn. Anyway, so I'm catching the bus.
So late, right? Damn.
Anyway. So I'm catching the bus or whatever. It's late at night. I walk home through this vacant lot. You know our group is vacant around the corner. So I'm walking home. Like I said, one way. A cop goes up on the one way, not fast, but pulled up on the one way and stopped me and shit. And it's so funny when stuff like this happens. Like, not that you would expect a lot of people to be around, but most of the time, nobody's around when this shit happens, which is always a little odd. But nobody was around. Not that I needed them to be. But dude stopped me and, like, went through my, like, pockets. And they were, like, cool about it, but it was still, what the fuck? Went through my pockets, all this shit, asked me, like, where I was. I think I just come from the mall, all this shit. But he said that he thought because I had a hoodie on and I went through the vacant lot that I had, like, seen him and did something. And I'm like, no, I'm walking home, man. So I agree with you. No, I'm not going to hate a whole group of people just because these dumb assholes thought that, oh, black dude with a hoodie in the hood, oh, he's got to be ditching something because he sees us. Because no, that is very much rooted in a huge level of bigotry, whether they want to admit it or not. But no, that doesn't mean that they dictate what other people are going to do just because of that. No.
Yeah, and just because we look that way don't mean we turn a blind eye to all racism out there. It's just rather than me personally, rather than try to beat racism to death with a closed fist, I'm instead fighting racism with the open hand. So it's like, hi, nice to meet you. Let's get to know each other as individuals. I'm a guy that likes fighting games and X-Men and some anime. Not all. Some of that weeaboo shit is way too weeaboo. But what about you? I like that shit too. Great. We can be friends on this regard. Let's have that as an amicable way of greeting each other, and just interacting with each other. Even if I never get to know you any more than, hey, that also likes One Piece. We don't have to hate each other. I don't have to be like, oh, it's a white dude. I don't care if you do like anything that I like. He can like literally everything I like down to a T, but I'm gonna hate him because some white guy I knew back in the day called me the N-word in a way that I did not agree with.
At the end of the day, people, be yourself at all times. Find the best way to be you. Don't give a fuck what anybody tells you how you should be. Be you, whatever the fuck that means. Be you to a fucking T, whoever you're around. And then also, just, try to live your life without harming anybody else's life. And there you go. Make sure that our lives coexist and mingle and do whatever.
We tell you to be nice to yourselves, but also be nice to everybody else.
Bam. So if you want to be nice to our respective socials, you can go ahead and visit yours truly social and go ahead and be nice by clicking on it anywhere. You can click on it under the name Superjaz. Anywhere you stream your music. I do rap. Superjaz is spelled Superjaz. Like I said, anywhere you stream your music, go ahead and look for my debut solo album, My Secret Identity. You may have to put in Superjaz, My Secret Identity, since I'm not that famous yet. Also, you can go ahead and be nice and click on my Twitter handle, which would be under the name Superjaz2, so that's Superjaz number 2, all one word. And then, of course, you will find and follow me on Instagram in the nicest way possible under the handle Forever Superjaz, the word forever spelled correctly. And if you happen to be in the St. Louis area, well, first of all, go on Facebook and be nice and click that like button on Facebook for Aquarian Rising Productions. I started a production company for plays and whatnot, and the first show that we're doing is called A Colored Funeral, and that opens June 16th, runs that weekend, and the weekend after that of the 23rd, Fridays and Saturdays at 8, Sundays at 2, 517 Theater Lane. Tickets are $15 at the door. Where can they find and be nice to you, my friend?
Well, obviously they can find me here every week, every Wednesday on the Whatever We Want podcast. You can also find me elsewhere on YouTube under feogrande, that is F-E-O Grande. I have a show on there called This Guy Hasn't Seen that I do with my good friend Bill Smith. It has been a year. I said it before and I'm saying it again now because I believe this came out the week after the year special. Go check that out. Get a little synopsis, get an idea how we are chill there. I also have a Twitter and Twitch that is Giotavi, as in Giotavi. Come on in. Stop on by. And yeah, that's what I got going on. I got a little something else possibly working on as well, but still not ready to talk about.
Well, whether it be about this ism or that ism, or this ick, or that ick, or X-Men, or XFL, or existentialism. What are we going to talk about next time?
Whatever we want.
Be nice to yourself, everybody, and everybody else.